Just kidding. Didn't fall asleep this time. My name is Tim Sedano, and I'm the host of Paranormal Insight. Thank you so much for joining us this week. This week, we're going to look at miracles here in California, specifically, more specifically, in my area, in the Santa Clara County area. This was brought about by a discussion with my father, and he put it to me that we have a number of famous people buried in our cemeteries in this area. I didn't even know that, including the Santa Clara Mission. What caught my attention more than anything in doing my research were the miracles, the unexplained happenings that have accompanied these churches, including the Santa Clara Mission. So we'll start with that. Mission Santa Clara Diocese, located in present-day Santa Clara, California, has a fascinating history that dates back to its establishment in 1777. Founded by Father Unibro Serra, a Spanish Franciscan missionary, the mission played a significant role in the development and spiritual growth of the local community. Initially a small adobe church and living quarters for the Franciscan friary, Mission Santa Clara gradually expanded and became a thriving center of agriculture and community life. Over the years, the mission faced various challenges, including fire, earthquakes, and social changes. However, it preserved and remains a cherished symbol of California's history and the enduring influence of the Spanish missions. It should also be noted that it stands at the center of modern-day Santa Clara University. I believe it was the third grade, I went to a Catholic school, St. Clair's Catholic School, and we naturally toured the mission, which is literally right across the street from where I went to school. So we went to the old mission, we took a tour, and that's when we heard the remarkable tale of the miracle at St. Clair's Mission. And it goes something like this. This is in the mission's second iteration because the mission originally faced a lot of, well, it was crippled by fire, I think, and earthquakes. So the story we were all told, a bunch of third graders now, in our little Catholic school uniforms. I think we wore polos and had blue sweaters that we could wear over it. And it was a cold day, so we all had our sweaters on and our corduroy pants. No lie, corduroy pants. Bunch of kids zick, 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 as they walked. It was kind of funny. Upon reflection, the story goes, after services one evening, it was pretty quiet in the church, and the church was constructed in such a way, the mission, I should say, but it's the chapel within this mission, was constructed in such a way that every little, I mean, you go peep, and they're going to hear it at 15 times that volume across the other side of the church. It's the echoing and the acoustics in that place is amazing. I still think to this day, the priests don't use microphones. It's that powerful and that acoustically designed. But so we had to be really quiet as the story was told to us because there were still people they weren't attending mass, but they were there praying. And they had the old seats from the way the story goes, 100 years ago. These were woven seats, wooden, frames, but the seats were woven, and they're like 100 years old. I don't know if they're still there or not. But so some people were there praying for one thing or another. So we had to be quiet, and we were led along. There's a series of alcoves, and there's a beautiful oil painting as soon as you enter off to the right. And then there were these series of alcoves that went all the way down the side of one side of the church. So big, beautiful oil painting. The subject matter of that oil painting escapes me, but I remember being just in awe of the colors and the scope of this image. Still can't remember what it is. If I can find a picture of it, I'll put it up. And as we go down, we get to another set of alcoves, and the first alcove is the Saint Francis altar, and then there's the Saint Ignatius altar. He founded the Jesuits, and the picture there was actually saved from the fire in 1926. And then there's the Our Lady of Guadalupe altar, and that larger picture there is was also saved from the fire. In fact, I think most of the artifacts along that wall, where all these alcoves are, were saved from the 1926 fire. And it's all these things are behind these velvet ropes. And this is we're talking it was like 78, 79, I think, when this happened. And assuming I got my math right, I think I do. So, and the third alcove is a doorway, and that doorway is locked. That leads out to that cemetery I talked about a little bit earlier, where all those famous people are buried. And I'll tell you who's there in a separate episode. But in the fourth alcove is a huge cross, and it has it's the a crucified Christ there, and it's elaborate, and it's very old, very old. I think that too is close to 100 years old. It used to hang in front of the church, but they replaced it since, and but they didn't want to get rid of it, obviously. And so they made it part of this little like mini museum. And there's an altar in front of it, a kneeling altar, one of those little things, so you can kneel and pray before it. And there's a series of candles there for people to light for prayers. And as we're being told about what it is, that's when we hear the story of the miracle. So it's late at night. Nobody's in this church except for one man, a priest. And he is steeped in prayer, kneeling before the crucifix. And he is so focused that he doesn't move. He appears not to even be breathing. And it's either another priest or a patron. I think it was a female, a woman, and she walks in a little bit. She takes a seat, one of the woven chairs, and she's trying to be as quiet as possible because, like I said, that place you say peep, and I'm not kidding, peep like that, and it'll echo back and forth. It just rings in this space. But I digress. So she's being super quiet, and it's hard to do. And she's kind of being cautious. She's looking over on occasion as she sits down in this chair. And she has this moment where she sees movement out of the corner of her eye, and she looks, and she knows what this place looks like forward or backwards. Her church. It's where she goes. So she sees movement. Oh, this guy must be leaving. No, there's two people suddenly standing there. The priest, who was in just delved in prayer. I mean, almost like he's hypnotic. I think he's not moving hardly at all. And there's this other person standing behind him, hands on this priest's shoulders. I wouldn't say being rough with him, just in a compassionate manner. And the lady says, "Oh, that's interesting. I've never seen anyone." And then it dawns on her that the crucifix, which has Jesus up on the cross, is empty, and that, in fact, it is that statue somehow transubstantiated into a living being is what's standing behind him. And he doesn't have just the loincloth on. He's wearing these robes and they look kind of reddish to her and white on the sleeves, she describes. And he this other person, Jesus, raises his hand behind the priest's head and gently does this, raises his head up as if he's saying something. So one hand on the shoulder, the other hand on the priest's head, right? As if he's saying something, praying. And she's kind of mesmerized by this. And she realizes she's witnessing something miraculous. So she averts her eyes. This isn't hers to see. This isn't her miracle. But curiosity gets the better of her. And she looks back that Jesus is back on the cross as he's supposed to be. And the priest uh, stands up at that moment and puts his hand on his chest, gives a little bow, a little amen, and it's so quiet. Even in this echoey place, she could barely hear him. And he turns to leave and he sees her and she's kind of bugged out looking at him. He goes, "Bless you," and walks out. And that's the miracle at Santa Clara Mission. Uh, she prayed on this for like 3 or 4 days. And finally, she talks to her usual priest because this guy she was aware of this guy being around, but wasn't her regular priest. So she talks to her regular priest at the mission, tells him the story, and says, "Oh, that was so and so." And he was just visiting or something like that. He was either visiting or he had just retired. And that and he says it'll be hard to get a hold of him because he's going way off somewhere or something along those lines. So we are all left with thousands of questions, being a bunch of curious little kids. And our teacher and our guide knew next to nothing about it. uh, Past that story. So with me telling you this story, I will begin my own investigation into the miracle some almost 100 plus 100 year almost 100 years later, investigation to the miracle at Santa Clara Mission. This will also be the start of a series where I will investigate miracles here in California, was my area more specifically. And then as a kind of a second half of that investigation, I will delve into who's buried where. We have a lot of famous people buried locally. I didn't even know until my father brought it up to my attention. So thanks, Dad. And with that, I leave you with this very short episode this week. And hopefully your interest is piqued because we're going to have a lot of fun digging into this. I'll have lots of interviews with the Jesuits and historians, other folks in uncovering not only the mysteries of the miracles that have occurred here, but those who have a little bit of historical fame or are buried in our various cemeteries in the area, including the cemetery at Santa Clara Mission. So thank you so much for watching. This is a short one. This is the one I wanted to do when I fell asleep last time. Just so you know. So yeah, it's a short one, but there we have it. So my name is Tim Sedano, host of Paranormal Insight, and I thank you for watching and listening. Have a good rest of the week. Thank you for watching and listening. Please click the subscribe button and activate notifications for future episodes and other content. If you have a paranormal experience that you would like to discuss on the show, please email us at paranormal.insight.podcast@gmail.com. That's paranormal.insight.podcast@gmail.com. Find us on Facebook and Instagram under @paranormal_insight.